Fire
The
it up.
learner is always right.
The learner is indeed always right. Happy Autism Month to you, Jared. It's
And
Autism
you as
Month.
well.
Like, it's so funny as an autistic person. Like, why is this a thing? Because, autism, with it being like recognized in April, I view it as like this dormant virus that just kind of like sits in the body for the rest of the year. And then in April, it comes out as like blood blisters and stuff. And so then it's like, oh, well, it's evident that I have autism, or it's evident that autism exists. So happy Autism Month. Um,
And
so
from what I understand, you have mixed or complicated feelings about Autism Month,
I do.
or just hate it altogether.
I I don't love it generally, but I take the stance of when you put a special event or you put a holiday or when you put something on anything that should just be like baseline. So treating black people fairly and acknowledging their history, treating women with equity and acknowledging their history, autism, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, whatever the case may be. It's like at our baseline, we should always be aware and be like actively fighting in all of these things and trying to problem solve in society. But I don't know. To me, it gives like tokenization of certain existence features. But acknowledging that it's also important to acknowledge all of these months and acceptances and awarenesses. Um, so yeah, that's one caveat. So that's my perspective. I don't celebrate holidays because I find them arbitrary. I'm not religious. I'm not any of these things. So to me, it's like every day should be important to me. I'm going to put my values in every day. That's caveat. Um,
So you're conceptually consistent.
I am. I try to be. I very much try to be. It's like, no, I'm always socially justice driven. I'm always trying to be anti racist. I'm trying to always be, an intersectional feminist. I'm always autistic. I can't take it off and like put it to the side when I decide I want to be neurotypical. And I can try to perform neurotypicality, but if you know me, spoiler alert, it doesn't go great. So with autism awareness, acceptance, whatever people are calling it now, month, there's a lot of mixed feelings within varied autistic communities. So that's another piece of it. There's been a lot of harm. There's been a lot of propaganda that's been put out there about autistic people. We're still fighting like anti-vaccine rhetoric and like, oh, we need to find a cure for autism and blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm representing somebody who is very minimal support needs, arguably. I probably could have had a lot more support throughout life. Instead, I kind of had to raw dog everything until I got diagnosed later. But I do not speak for those who require higher support needs. I have several friends who do require higher support needs. I'm on research committees with individuals with higher support needs, and I cannot speak for their experiences. So important to throw that out there.
Yeah. Just
But
real quick.
no, go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you did.
Um, I was smiling just now, and it's because you said I had to raw dog everything, and I'm so childish. I for a second there, I just had to, get out the giggles.
We had a conversation so we had a recorded episode where we discussed, is that something that is actually used in that regard? And it's like, yes, that's actually societally correct. So long story short, I am older than Jared here, and I am more aware of youth culture because I have been using that term as the youth use it. So I just want to throw that out there. And so this is like a point of contingency for both of us now, where
Yep.
it's a reference point, which just, I think it's important to throw that out there just so people are like, you all are weird. What are you talking about?
Agreed. Apologize for the sidebar.
It's fine. Sidebars happen. Like, I have ADHD. They're going to happen. And I feel like you just kind of run with it and you also reinforce it sometimes, and that's okay. Okay, so let's see, where do we even start with this? So, the history of autism is very complicated and complex. Um, Let me see if I can pull this up. So, there's like a history that I'm going to share with our resources as well, but just kind of talking about the history of the month, how it was originated. I actually was not fully aware of the concept being originated in 1911. I was only aware of the
Wow.
1940s with Leo Kanner. Now, it wasn't necessarily like, hey, this is separate from schizophrenia, but they noticed different characteristics and basically defining that, hey, there's something different occurring here. I'm just not sure what it is or how we should categorize it or whatever the case may be. So, I have some thoughts on the overlap with schizophrenia, but I will step back from those. So, Leo Kanner is generally attributed with being the, I guess, founder of autism. I don't know how you would say that, but basically saying, these children have these certain traits that are similar, and, they may care or not care about what the rest of society is doing, which, newsflash, we don't. Um, Using language in a different way, et cetera, et cetera. So it wasn't until I think the 1970s, yes. So the 1970s, the National Autism Society designated April as Autism Awareness Month, and not a lot of people are aware of how far back that actually went. Um, I grew up in the 90s. You were born in the 90s, and I remember when I first got diagnosed, I was telling my mom, hey, I'm autistic. And she's like, nobody even talked about autism in the 90s. And she's like, I don't remember anybody saying anything about their child being assessed for autism or anything like that. And so, like, this was 20 years after Autism Awareness Month originated. Um, yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts so far? Is this something that you've kind of been aware of and heard of?
So so this is news to me, information to me. A lot of people think that I just know a lot of stuff. I just do a lot of looking online and reading books to learn stuff.
Which is
Um,
what you should do.
and exactly. And I feel the same. I do remember the 90s because I was early 90s, 92. And nobody was talking about autism. In fact, the what I remember most is dyslexia being kind of big, and especially I remember a lot of stigma towards dyslexia, negative stigma against it. Because I remember in my middle school, kids found out another kid was diagnosed as dyslexic, and it was a whole thing. So I
Right.
digress. But I think it's important to also say that just because people started talking about or identifying or labeling autism in 1911 or the 1940s, it's been around forever. It's always people have always been
Yeah.
autistic, or the traits have always been there. The differences have always been there. There's always been individuals such as that, and the classification is what's new. And I think that that's what's important to be said because we're just now at a point where we can share information more widely in 1911, 1940, and provide classifications of individuals, and not for good reasons. What were they doing with the individuals in 1911 and
Oh, God.
1940? I'm betting that people were going the way of the JFK women,
Yep.
you know?
Lobotomies. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, the ones who could get by in society were stigmatized and labeled as weird and,
Or
probably,
witches.
or witches. Yeah, I would have been absolutely burned at the stake, 100%. And I accept that.
Pattern recognition.
I accept that. And the thing is,
She's predicting.
yeah, it's like, well, I'd rather probably have that happen than hang around with a bunch of people who hate me. So, oh well, whatever. Anyway, yeah, that's a wonderful point, and that's the thing, and that even goes into conversations today because we are hearing more and more people say, "Well, everyone's autistic now. Everyone's getting diagnosed with autism," and it's like, okay, so let's understand that now we have a much better understanding of the intersectional ways that autism presents because research historically only focused on white men and white boys and did not focus on anybody else. Women minorities, nobody. So we have a much more comprehensive and intersectional understanding of this is how autism presents, given everybody's place in society and different barriers or stigmas or accessibility, et cetera, et cetera. And so with that understanding, it's funny because the autistic community embraces more people coming in because it's like, hey, more people like us, this is great, welcome. When I first got diagnosed, I told some of my autistic friends and I was like, hey, so I'm in the club, and they were all just like, congratulations, welcome. It's a very cool community. But we don't fit in to larger society still. And so to kind of say those things is a lack of understanding as to how we've fought to get here, because we didn't have a place in society before any of this. And important to also note that diagnosis is a privilege, and there are still many, many people who suspect that they are autistic or on the spectrum, and they may never have access to the privilege of having that knowledge of being diagnosed and understanding who they are, and let alone services. The older you are, the less likely you are to get services to support your needs that have gone unrecognized for many, many years. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think that that kind of goes to one of my questions for you. I understand totally your stance on how you feel about Autism Awareness Month. I wonder if now that autism is at a point where individuals feel it is uh, an important and significant part of their identity, where they're being asked to be identity first, so autistic person instead of person first, person with autism. I wonder if part of people's happiness that autism awareness exists is connected to that label, and that connection to that label and community.
I mean, I think that it definitely has a connection. And, I could see some naysayers being like, well, then won't people just like want to be diagnosed autistic? Is that fun for you? It's like, I'm sorry, being disabled is not fun, because society doesn't make disability fun. It makes it really challenging and it sucks. So, like, if you want to be diagnosed with autism, then you're motivated by completely different things that I'm aware of. So, yeah, that sense of community is really great. And in part, thanks to the internet, we have that now. Now, I could still argue that without the internet, I don't know that I would have that same sense of community. Like, one of my best friends now, who is a co-researcher, co-author with me, they have been diagnosed a little bit longer. They were one of the first people to alert me, hey, I'm pretty sure you're like here with me. Have you been assessed? But I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet that person and become friends with that human if it weren't for the internet and accessibility to diagnosis. Because they would have never been in the position to be presenting and me meet them. So, there's a lot of tumbling blocks there. But we love the community. We think it's really supportive. Now, one thing that's also important, I love that you also brought up identity versus person first language, which is still, for some reason, a debate, which is so silly because it's like we've dropped the mic on this. But it shouldn't be forced on somebody how they identify. And this goes to gender, this goes to sexual orientation, this goes to all of these things. No identity should be forced on somebody unless you literally have no choice, I guess. I'm talking like race, ethnicity, stuff like that. But the Rachel Dolezal thing comes up with the NAACP. I'm sorry. Anyway,
Yep.
sidebar.
Transracial.
Which, right. So, if you don't know about Rachel Dolezal, just look it up. It's wild. So, anyway, I don't want to spend more time on that problem. So yeah, we don't want to force anybody to have a certain identity. And so when we talk about identity first, I am identity first. And that's how I identify, because once again, I cannot take my autism off. It's not convenient for me to do so. And I don't mask well. And so I am considered an autistic person. But somebody else may want to be person first. They may want to have that signifier that says, hey, remember me first as a person, and also I'm autistic. or I have autism. And so that's entirely up to the individual. And that is sometimes something that the community will try to force on people, but like most of us are generally like, hey, just like with anything else, people are individuals and we have to let them be who they want to be. So, generally, most of the community is pretty widely accepting of choice. So, I love bringing that up and kind of talking about that because people just want to force the person first because of the APA standards for years, which have changed and people apparently are not aware of. So, yeah. Um, so, there's been a shift recently to instead of autism awareness, because I mean, people should know autism exists. That's so silly. To acceptance, which it's like, okay, so we still have a lot of ways to go on that. So, what does acceptance look like? Well, it means we accommodate for your needs. We, don't stigmatize you based on your diagnosis. We still have a long way to go with that. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on awareness versus acceptance, like as an objective defining person in ABA?
I think that it really matters. I think that when it comes to acceptance, that's a big thing. And I made a video I think a year or two ago talking about autism awareness month and I talked about what I think that the autism community needs from the neurotypical community. And I think a lot of it is education. It's listening to them. It's understanding what what it looks like and what's going on, and not just that person's weird. I think that people like us who have been in the field for so long, like yesterday I'm walking my dog, right? And I've seen these two people walk all the time. It's one person that looks like a parent and an older person that's walking in front of them too far and too fast to really be side by side. And then they're on their phone. And then I'm like, what's going on here? First time, don't mind it at all. Second time, like this time I saw them, they were on their phone and then they did sprints in different areas. And the father unit person kind of just waited and was like, I'm not keeping up with that. And then I saw clear stemming and they were just chilling. They were just doing like imagine taking a lap around the park. You know what I mean? So somebody else without the background I have that doesn't understand or is not aware of autism at all might be like, what's going on here? This is weird. Let me hide my child or something like that. But when you get to the level of acceptance, you have a certain understanding of what's going on. You're like, oh, they're just chilling. You know what I mean? They're doing their
Yeah,
thing. Like any of us would do our thing. And for us to classify what is acceptable within the parameters of a society so ill as ours is is ludicrous. So I think that part of the acceptance and awareness, there needs to be education for the neurotypical community.
agree. Agree wholeheartedly. And that's a beautiful example. And to add to that example, when you kind of visualize this in your head, I try to think of different demographics. It's like, okay, this is a white man. Okay, that behavior could be seen as potentially unsafe if he's running close to children. And so people might be like, oh my God, that guy is going to attack that child or whatever. If it's me doing that, I feel that it's more accepted. And maybe that's because I am a woman and I present feminine. And like, I go to the fabric store and I stem because, like, I love all the colors, I love all the designs. I found a quilt shop recently and that is my heaven. And so I'm like
Mm-hmm.
sitting here like in the aisles. My spouse will come with me. He'll push the cart. So he'll just
Mm-hmm.
kind of stand there and let me do my thing. And I'm like, just let me touch all the fabrics and let me look at all the fabrics. And, but like, if a certain race of a man went into the fabric store and did that, do you know how those little old ladies would respond? Probably not
Yep.
great. So
Yep.
it's really important that intersectional factors are considered with any of this behavior as well, because this is how people get shot by police. This is how,
Mm-hmm.
there's those misunderstandings, and it could be a matter of literal life and death for autistic people. So,
Yeah. And then
Micro.
I remember there was this, yeah, there was a Netflix show from the perspective of an autistic person, and I forget what it was called. I don't know if you ever
Atypical.
saw it or remember it. Atypical, yeah, and there was the one scene with the police officer, and I think I fell off the show because I don't think I finished it or whatever,
Yeah.
but I remember that episode vividly because I've actually had those experiences. I've had those experiences with the autistic student, and then I've seen stories of somebody who was black that was working with an autistic person and trying to work with the police like, hey, I got this, and then
Yeah.
the black aide got shot.
Yep.
Like,
I've seen
so
that
it's
one.
either, so is there's so many layers to this. So I think all of that is important, and then also understanding like some stuff like the stemming, like so many people I've heard horror stories of people that have had to that were like RBTs or registered behavior technicians or just behavior interventionists that were told to physically stop the person from stimming. And that
I've
irks
been
me
told to do
so
that.
much. I was told like I've never been told to do that, fortunately. I had a supervisor that was so amazing. She literally told me, if you ever have to use physical restraint, the behavior intervention plan has failed. And I had to use restraint one time for one student who was trying to choke out his mom. And my second, because we had two to one, and I used a physical hold to stop the mom from being strangled. And the principal thanked us because he couldn't overpower the student to stop them from doing that. But my BCBA kind of let us have it, and I was confused because I was like, we stopped. I mean, she's like, no, what you need to understand is anytime you use physical restraint, the behavior intervention plan has failed and we need to go back to the drawing board. She wasn't mad that she had to go back to the drawing board. It was a difficult time with a difficult student who was already going to be moved from that school because it was clearly not an environment they could be successful in or that could produce success for the student. But it was a frustrating case, and and it was such an important lesson for me because I've seen how often physical restraint is used, and I had never used it up to that point, and I felt like it was just because I'm a big male, even though I've worked with a lot of physical students with high levels of physical high frequency of hitting, kicking, biting, spitting, what have you. I never had to do that. I could block a run, but in this case, that wasn't an option. So these things are important to learn and understand. And why is it that you shouldn't be doing physical restraint? And like me, when I am excited or happy, I have a stem. I literally am like, I call it wagging my tail. I bounce my leg all the time, literally all the time. I've done it so much. Like in bed, my girlfriend has been like, Jared, you're shaking the entire bed. I
My
was like, I'm
spouse
sorry,
does
I'm just
that
watching this
too.
TikTok and it's great. Yeah,
100%.
and not diagnosed, not diagnosed. So,
But everyone
and
stems.
was I frustrated? Which, yeah, was I frustrated when she told me to stop stimming? Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Nothing makes me rage more than being interrupted in a stem. And like, well, I shouldn't say nothing because like I get worked up hearing about like autistic people being shot and stuff like that by police, and
Yeah,
like I've been trying to like hold back tears, so I'm glad we kind of pivoted. But like the instant rage that comes to me if you stop my stem, because it meets a need, people, like that's the thing, like
yeah,
there's research to like suppress stemming, and what a lot of like students who I've worked with don't realize because they haven't been taught by an autistic person, or somebody with a really great perspective on behavior as behavior like your supervisor was. I wish everybody had that experience, but because unfortunately that's not it, most of the time. But it meets a need. And whether you can see or not see that need, whether it's just considered into the lump all category of automatic reinforcement, which is just kind of bogus
yeah,
to an autistic person, because my stems can mean many things. My stems can mean I'm happy. My stems can mean I am frustrated. My stems can mean that I am anxious. It can mean so many different things. And there are different functions and different like times that those stems happen, and it's complex and it can't just be lumped into automatic reinforcement. That's like the most ridiculous thing to me. But understandably, from the outsider perspective, you cannot have access to that unless I reliably inform you of those private events. So, in all fairness,
Yeah.
but yeah, it meets a need. And like, I've had this conversation with students where they want to suppress a STEM. They're like, oh, well, it's getting in the way of doing their work. Okay, well, first off, what about the work is creating that opportunity to need to STEM? Is it too complicated? Do you need to break it down? Do you need to deliver the instructions in an accessible and accommodating manner? Like, there are many things here as to why that person is STEMming. Either it's not rewarding and there's not reinforcement to match the response effort, or your environment's set up in a really bad way and you're not doing the plan, and you're not meeting those needs. Because like 9 times out of 10, whenever I have a student who I was like inherited for practicum or whatever, they would come in and be like, hey, this program, we started suppressing this STEM, but now they're starting to hit. And now they're starting to do, it's like, gee, I wonder why. Well, maybe it's because you took away their coping and now they have progressed in a response class. We don't talk about response class enough, folks. And that is unethical because you're taking away something that is reinforced at a lower magnitude and intensity. Guess what's going to happen? Like, this is just
Yep.
obvious to me. But people think it's the right thing
Exactly.
because it's in the literature. Okay, well, so is electric shock and so is conversion therapy. That doesn't mean we should still do it. Boom.
No, you are 100% correct. And I think this goes to something that we need to teach everybody, and I think teaching right here, right now is important. I have slides for it, but I'm not even gonna look for it. I'm just gonna talk about it. Um,
Okay.
this thing we call the fair pair rule. For every behavior you want to decelerate, you need to find a behavior that serves the same functions that you want to accelerate, right?
Yep.
So a replacement behavior. We're not just working on decreasing a behavior. We also need to work on building behavior that is functional and available for the individual. So that behavior that you're decelerating needs to go somewhere. And that's where you find that fair pair. And that's what we call the fair pair rule in precision teaching. Please make sure if you are working on a behavior you are decelerating, you are also working on a behavior you are accelerating as well.
Well, and we love to use the watered down DRA version of that. And unfortunately, if you're implementing a DRA procedure and you're still seeing that behavior, and I love that you use the decelerate, accelerate terms as well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see that behavior you want to decelerate or decrease still happening, then your DRA is not actually reinforcing. You need to try again. You need to match that magnitude. And so
Exactly.
I
Ooh,
just
match that magnitude.
match that
That
magnitude.
is a bar.
That is. That's a bar and it's a t shirt. Match that magnitude.
Oh, new merch.
Soon.
Match my magnitude.
Redbubble shop coming soon. Match my magnitude. I love it. So, speaking of matching the magnitude, so we're still kind of talking about like Autism Month and all that. We've kind of like diverted, but this is all like super relevant. Now,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts? What have you heard about like the puzzle piece?
Oh, so for a long time, and this is why I don't have any tattoos. For a long time, people associated autism with the puzzle piece, and when I heard it's like, oh, it's good because like, this is what I was told. This is probably not the actual story.
Disclosure.
This is just lore I was told. The puzzle piece it represents, every person with autism is different, so we put a puzzle piece. Although it's like every so that, and then like Autism Speaks, which is a whole nother thing and an issue, uses that as a symbol for autism. And now that people learned that, we have to further educate them to show why it's problematic and wrong, which I think that you could do much better than I can.
Well, you're there. And that's the thing. Like there are times as an autistic BCBA and advocate in this space, which is by the way super tough because I have the cognitive dissonance of like I'm a part of this amazing community of people who I've always loved and always felt accepted by and always been supported by. And then I'm in this field that I do not feel that from, and I'm actually quite angry at because of the harm that continues to happen and blah, blah, blah. So the cognitive dissonance is so real, by the way. So throwing that out there just so you can kind of understand like where that is. A lot of BCBAs and ABA people have now been told that very information. They've been exposed to that information. And at the bare minimum, like, showing that you're neuroaffirming would mean that you don't slap a puzzle piece on everything. Now, there are some autistic people, once again, that goes back to like identity and person first language, that prefer identifying with the puzzle piece. That's great, but that doesn't speak for everybody, once again. And so when we force imagery or we force identity on somebody, once again, that causes a problem. It causes rifts. It, like, you know, people may have their own reasons for using it. I don't like it. And like I can go into some of that too, but like at the very minimum, if I see like a community or like an organization or a company that has a puzzle piece in their logo still, I'm like, really? The bare minimum now is like not doing that, folks. Like how did you miss this?
They're not tapped in. And also, like, that's like what I was saying, like, that's why I don't have any tattoos, because, like,
Right.
so many people I
In the
know have
2000s.
the puzzle piece tattoo. You know, they have the Harry Potter tattoo. I mean, they have the Daenerys Targaryen. They named their kid Daenerys, and then the show ended.
Oh my god, I love that.
So
I
sorry,
love
you got
that for
something up.
them.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. I love that. But I have tattoos, but mine are like not, they're pop culture, but like I don't know, mine are like memey. So yeah, I like make fun of things. Luckily, I did not cave and get like a Harry Potter thing or anything. I'm trying to think. I've got like Daria. I've got a Clueless tattoo, which arguably the movie did not age well because they dropped the R word in it. But you know, updated information is good. Anyway,
Yep.
so the problem that a lot of us have with like the puzzle piece and ABA communities refuse to listen to is that there's a lot of harm with the historical connotation of the puzzle piece. The way it originated was through the National Autistic Society, and this was, I want to say, in the 70s. But I'll show that as well because I have it pulled up. It was basically taken by Autism Speaks because they seem to appropriate a lot of things, and that's just kind of trendy for them. But they adopted it as their logo, and they made it blue because at the time you had what was it, only one in every four individuals was a girl or female who was diagnosed with autism, because boys made up, shockingly, with the characteristics that were male oriented, made up most of the population of autistic people. I hope that's kind of changing now because we understand it a little bit more, but blue, if you see blue with puzzle piece, two huge red flags because we're identifying males and we're identifying previous harm. So the puzzle piece came to be because we are puzzling and we're a mystery. Good, because I don't really care for people to understand us if they don't want to understand us. But let me see if I can pull up the other picture. So the National Autistic Society logo, and I had to use like a very crude Google image search for this because a lot of autistic people find it traumatic. It shows basically autism as a tragedy. The child is very sad, puzzling, all these things. And so basically autistic people took a look at this and they were like, this ain't it. So we'll adopt something else. A lot of people now embrace a rainbow infinity symbol. There is also the movement for a gold infinity symbol. I guess the rainbow infinity symbol represents neurodiversity as a whole, primarily autism, but then gold specifically represents autism. There's also a fight for wear red instead of blue for Autism Awareness Month and Autism Acceptance Month to kind of basically knock at Autism Speaks because, the lighted up blue thing is from Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks has also been trying to do a lot of damage control recently. I was kind of playing around on their website, and hopefully it's not performative. But they have a very watered down version of the history of ABA on their website, which, they do acknowledge like Watson, they acknowledge Lovaas, but they don't really talk about the harm. So it's like I kind of proceed with caution because I feel that it's still performative because of that. I feel that they would fully disclose, hey, this is a thing, but we're not going to do it because it's unethical. So, yeah. That was a lot. I just kind of info
And
dumped.
no, no, no. That's I have questions now. Easy question and then more complicated question.
Gosh.
Easy question is, how do you feel about the infinity symbol?
I I find it hard to put a logo on a condition or a state of being. And so, like, if people want to identify with a thing, cool. But I myself don't need a symbol to express who I am. I respect others making that choice, though. The infinity symbol is supposed to be just kind of a representation of the fact that it's a spectrum. And so everybody's going to
Hmm.
present differently and embracing all the different colors and, all of that. So I respect what it is, and I think that it's definitely a much better decision than the puzzle piece that's blue. But me, myself,
Yeah,
I'm not
and
going
I
to run
think
and get a tattoo of it.
okay, cool. So, and I think that
Noted.
also it's important to have symbol made by the community that it's supposed to represent. That's very significant. Like when you see the black fist, like it's because black people put up the black fist and then take a picture of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you see the Black American Heritage flag, it's black person made that. So I think that having the community be the creators and designers of the symbology, symbol, symbol,
Symbolism?
symbolisms,
Yeah.
yeah,
I knew where you were going.
is important. Yeah. The second one is, can you kind of describe the problematic nature of Autism Speaks for the community that doesn't really understand?
Sure. So generally, a lot of the criticisms that have existed is historically they did not have a lot of autistic representation in Autism Speaks, whether employment or board leadership or anything like that. Allegedly, they are not doing that anymore, but I haven't like dug deep to figure out is that fact or is that just propaganda. There's also been a lot of criticism as to how the money that they raise is used. That is, I think it's honestly fairly common in this area, unfortunately, which is kind of gross. Exploitive use of funds. The big thing as well was not accepting autistic feedback. So, like, people have been saying for years, like, ABA harmed me, ABA traumatized me, and they've always been a big push of, and as a BCBA, it's probably weird to hear me say this, but there are other things aside from ABA that can be used with autism, and they've always been pushing for use ABA, get as much as you can, get 40 hours a week, doing the overdosing of ABA and trying to normalize individuals. I think in the 90s, I want to say in the 90s or the early 2000s, there was a lot of campaigns basically painting and highlighting the autistic learners' parents and caregivers and the tragedy that they go through, which I'm not discounting how hard it is to have, be parenting somebody who may have more support needs. That is a very taxing position to be in. I can't speak to that struggle. I do not have children. I will not have my own children. So, a lot of focus on that versus the autistic person themselves. And then also trying to cure. There was a lot of cure talk. If you know anything about autism and you know what autism is, you know that that's not a thing. It's not a disease.
Hmm.
And a lot of us don't really care to be cured, if you will, because we have learned to work with this. And in some ways, we have a lot of strengths that we don't want to lose because of our autism, pattern recognition being one of mine. I'm grateful for that because had I not had excellent pattern recognition throughout my life, I wouldn't have found myself in situations that I needed to get the F out of. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's just been a lot of propaganda, I think, for the lack of better way to say that.
Okay,
Long story
that
short,
makes sense. Thank you.
yeah,
Um, I, and for whatever reason, what you were saying kind of got me to thinking, um, RFK Jr. Hey, RFK Jr. I'm talking to you. May you lose all control of any power you have in the government and live in destitute. Live the worst possible life you can. I'm not asking for you to no longer live. Go ahead and live because I don't know what's going on after we live. But may what you live after you no longer have power, or even while you have power, be the worst possible conditions available.
yep, I concur wholeheartedly, and I can add like maybe one or two other people to that. Um,
Oh, we got a long I got a long list here.
it grows every day.
Oh yeah, at the top of that list is 44 or 47. Mr. Orange Man, he up there. He putting up numbers.
I love the TikToks that are like when it happens, and we all like
Oh
know,
yeah.
we all know what
Yeah.
it means,
Yeah.
and it's like scenes from The Wiz, brand new day,
Oh
like
yeah.
I love
That
it.
that day, like
Oh my god.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, okay, here's a question. Do you want to be woken up or would you rather wake up to the
Yeah, that's a great question. I so when he first got elected, my ex at the time woke me up gently and was just like, "Hey, just so you know this happened," and expected me to go right back to sleep. And that did not happen. So maybe something similar. Hey, just so you know this happened, to kind of make amends for that, because I ended up crying
Mm-hmm.
that whole night and I did not sleep, and I
Yeah.
went to work the next day and I cried at work, and because I knew what was going to happen for people like me. I wasn't diagnosed then. I just knew as a woman I was screwed. And so I would like something similar. Yeah. How about you? Have you thought this through? Like,
I already have a script written.
have a plan. Of course.
I have a script written for a video. I do want to be woken up if I'm asleep because I need to be a part of the memes. I
Yeah.
need to see how the internet is engaging with this wonderful news. Exactly, like
Brand new day.
when the Queen of England died, like the meme
Oh, right.
they were magnifique. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You just can't even describe how delicious the memes were. So when this happens, oh man, when it happens, the memes are gonna be premium. Like I don't even think I'm gonna be able to leave my quarters of room. Work stoppage is gonna be on the level of GTA 6. It's gonna be that level of work stoppage. Like
It's funny you
calling
think
into
that's
work.
still going to come out. It's hilarious.
They said October this year. I won't be available if it does. I'll be at my local GameStop. I need a physical copy. I don't even buy physical copies anymore, but I need one.
Listen, y'all, you have not been punished enough by Rockstar Games, apparently, because, like, I worked at GameStop during, like, the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the Vice City, the collection era, and, like, this. I. I'm just not putting an expectation on them ever putting out GTA 6, period. Because if I do, disappointment will continuously occur. So I'm not expecting it to come out in my lifetime. I'm just going to say
That's fair.
that. Because that's what has been demonstrated. But yeah, if it comes out, I will absolutely be thrilled. And I'm with you on that. Like, and for what it's worth, I think that we would all probably have to take a day off from work, because I think most everyone's going to be in that same boat and be like, oh yeah, this is worthy of celebration.
If I get an email from somebody related to work on that day, I'll be like, stop it. Stop it. Are
What are
you
you?
MAGA?
I was gonna say that's a red flag right there. Like we need to throw that
Yeah.
all out. You need to put up your away out of office status, and like if I do get anything, it's still like instantly ick. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love that this is where this went. So
Yeah.
good.
I mean, unrelated, not on the docket to talk about. Have you watched or are you a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra, any of that?
I haven't. I hear that it's really great, but I know. That's fine. Judge away.
This is not even recommended reading. This is required
Required.
reading because it's that good, and you will cry, and the
You said this
lessons
about
learned. It's
Naruto
amazing.
too, so like I have to do all of
Well,
these things. Now I have PDA,
Naruto
pathological
is
demand avoidance. You know how that works.
oh yeah. Well, Naruto is significantly longer.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Avatar is super easy watch. And then Avatar, The Legend of Korra, when they had a woman protagonist, was really good. And especially it was like geared more adult. But because they had a woman protagonist, of course the internet was terrible because we can't have nice things and men suck. So, I enjoyed it thoroughly, anything that I can get. And basically, I brought that up because a new Avatar. There's like a whole leak of the new movie
Oh,
online, and there's like a question like, should you go and watch it? Because it's not supposed to come out till October, but
right.
it's basically the whole movie. It apparently is. I haven't watched it,
Ethics.
but people are saying, oh no, you shouldn't watch it, and people are saying it's a whole thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the studio of Nickelodeon Studio has really um, taken advantage of problematically the Avatar studio, and they've done so many horrible things, and they were supposed to have a theatrical release, and they were like, no, let's put it on Paramount Plus so we could push Paramount Plus subscriptions. So it was just a whole thing. um but
Yeah.
yeah.
Also important to note, Paramount Plus is in bed with Walmart Corporation because you get that as part of a Walmart Plus subscription. So yeah, if you're trying to avoid Walmart, and that sucks because I grew up on the Nickelodeon cartoons. I grew up on
Yep.
MTV, all of it, and like those are comfort shows to me. And I do subscribe to Paramount Plus, but I do not subscribe to Walmart as. But you get that as part of it. So just so you know, there's all these corporations in bed with each other and doing these things. Um, okay, so
Well,
I will add it to my list. I did know about.
okay.
I will. Here's the thing. If I don't get to it for 5 years, will you still be my friend?
That's
'Cause
fine. Look, if anybody says they'll add it to their list, I figure they plan on trying to get to
I
it at
will
some point,
try.
which is good enough for me
I will try.
because I'm the same way. Like, I have 5011 projects that I'm working on right now, so I cannot start a new series right now. But best believe there's going to be a time when I'm on like a flight or I'm doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I just need something to just chill out. What should I watch? I've watched all of everything that I want to watch, and
Mm-hmm.
this, oh, I had this recommendation. Boom.
Right. And you don't know what you like until you try it. And that's the thing. Like, I've had that
Exactly.
conversation with so many learners I've worked with and students and everything. It's like, you could be missing out on your new favorite food, especially with like
Yeah.
preference in eating. And, I was working with like a teenager once and he's like, wow, nobody's ever given me that perspective. And that is so true. And then he like tried Indian food the next day. And I was just like, see, like you could have been missing out on something this whole time. And he was just like, I didn't like this, but your perspective makes sense. And it's like, that's why
There you
it's
go.
important to understand autistic people because we don't know we're missing out on something if we, stick to our bland foods. Anyway, so to kind of shift a little bit more, let's see, we do have a little bit of time. So we could at least start on this if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Um, with the autism movement and autism month and all that, we tend to see a lot of stuff happening in the ABA world at the same time because that's the bread and butter. And there's a very sharp contrast between cultures where you have basically two sides, and that's it, no middle ground. You have the anti ABA movement, full of trauma survivors, individuals who have explicitly had direct contact with bad ABA services. And then you have the side that's pro ABA, which is we have this science and we want to save the world and we want to save you as well, trauma survivor. So, yeah. I know you've had a lot of exposure to this in the last few weeks. If you want to share.
Yeah, so I made a video. Um,
I love how it starts.
uh, so for context, I almost always have a script when I make my videos, and I've meticulously work on crafting it, anticipating responses. This video was just a video responding to whatever, right? And it
Raw
was
dogged.
no script. I raw dogged the video.
Yep. You said it.
And I can't remember exactly what the person said. You might remember it. It was something like ABA is animal training or
Uh-huh.
is based off
Yeah,
animal
something
training or
like
something
that.
like that. Um, and basically, I gave some education, what I felt was like educational explanations as to like, hey, first off, all humans are animals. So let's just, get some context and understanding. And then also the principles of behavior were identified in animals, absolutely. Then we came to understand that those principles also work in all organisms, single and multi uh cell organisms, all adhere to the laws and principles of behavior such as reinforcement, punishment, extinction, etc. Right? And those things can help us improve the lives of individuals, improve our lives, and ABA is happening around us at all times. When you see a red light, you step on the brake, and that's ABA. You see a green light, you step on the accelerator. That's ABA's antecedents, behaviors, and consequences that reinforce, punish the condition. You go to a stove, and if you touch a hot stove, your finger burns, it hurts. You learn to not touch the hot stove in the future. It is adaptive for us to be able to learn from the consequences of our behavior so we can stay alive. It is incredibly important, and it is in everything. So to design instruction around behavior analysis, which is really behavior science, is significantly important to better control the variables to increase the probability learning occurs. So that being said, people hated that. People lit me up in the comments, that was specifically the anti-ABA community. And their gripes were more either I've experienced behavior applied behavior analysis and it was harmful. I've heard about harmful practices in ABA, or I believe from what I've heard and or learned that all ABA is bad. I feel like those are the three themes that the critiques, criticisms, or comments that were against what I was saying came from. And then you have the other side, the pro ABA side, usually BCBAs, RBTs, individuals in the field, trying to defend the field, right? And not listening to the valid criticisms that were had by individuals that have been harmed, experienced harm, or seen harm. And some actually were previously people who were behavior analysts or RBTs who were told to do harmful procedures, right? So that fourth category, I'm sure there's probably a few more because I
Yeah.
posted across 4 or 5
That's
platforms.
those are the big
So
ones. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm not trying to defend ABA. I'm telling people there are an incredible amount of critiques to be had about applied behavior analysis. But I think that to blanket all ABA is bad is problematic, especially for those individuals who had beneficial effects from good ABA services. Now, can they be few and far between? Can it be difficult to discern whether or not the services are ethical, helpful, good, safe? Yes, and yes. However, like there's nuance, and I don't think in my 1 minute and 32-second video the nuance was conveyed, understood, or accepted. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it's complicated because I've been in that space where I've literally been caught in the middle for years. And so I learned from people who were in the fight even longer than I had been. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this a life goal and I'm going to try to advocate. And I question that decision every day sometimes because that space is really hard, especially as an autistic BCBA. That, once again, that cognitive dissonance is unreal. But it's hard, and I agree with you about blanket statements because they do not always convey context. I try to also give space to kind of comparing that to like not all men and like ACAB as far as police are
Mm-hmm.
concerned, because when we do say, well, I'm an exception, then you're basically saying not all men. Or you're saying, well, there are good cops, or, so when we say, when I say all ABA is abuse or all ABA perpetuates harm, that's what I mean. I am talking about the systems at play. And so that maybe that can help to listeners too. Because otherwise I wouldn't be practicing. I wouldn't be trying to teach things to be different. I would just have completely walked away from the field, which I've been tempted to do many times. But I have not, because I said, no, this was something I was passionate about, and I'm going to hopefully change some things. So, yeah, it gets really complex. And that's why I think there's such a disconnect, because you are either all against or all for. And that middle ground is where I hang out and I say, hey, you know what, we can try some things. Have you all even considered listening?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite clear you haven't, because once again, that defensiveness comes out immediately. But I also want to kind of give some space to the fact that when people go through ABA programs, historically, they have been told our science is superior because we do single subject design. We're actually kind of a
Absolutely.
joke. We're actually a joke to some of the scientific community because we do single subject design. Now, we can argue about the benefits of single subject design, and we all understand the individualization of single subject
Mm-hmm.
design. And that's the thing, is for real life impact. But ultimately, other disciplines look at that and they say, that isn't real science. Trust me, they're saying that. Go and look. It's all over the internet. So we're
Other
basically
soft
taught that.
sciences,
Yeah,
particularly.
yeah, exactly. So we're basically taught this elitist approach on our discipline, and I don't know why it's framed that way. I find it really gross. I try to not frame it that way when I teach. Yeah, but I don't know if you had a similar experience about that and exposure
Oh
to
yeah.
all of it.
It's so rampant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I also think that ABA should be a natural science. An emphasis on should, and it could be. Unfortunately, ABA utilizes a lot of practices that push it over into the soft science, a lot of measurement practices that push it over into the soft sciences. Every time you measure how many sessions, that's not an actual standard unit of time. So you can't be a hard science because you're not measuring in standard units of time, standard units. When we go back to standard units, when you measure in percent correct or percent opportunity occurrence, poo, then you're not measuring in standard units. A standard unit will be frequency, a dimensional quantity, a dimensionless quantity. Jared, chill out. Is not a standard unit for hard sciences. So there are many ways that ABA fails to stand up to its behavior science, rigorous scientific statutes. And those are some of my criticisms. In addition to the fact that ABA's ethics codes don't live up to my morals. And
Right.
I've had many a time, even before I was a BCBA, where I said, this is frustrating. This seems problematic. Well, our ethics code says this. The ethics code is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
The
And the
ACB
Venn
is wrong.
diagram of Yeah, and the Venn diagram of their ethics and my morals isn't a perfect circle. And because of that, I'm going to clash with them. And I think it's that critique that is not taught to behavior scientists, behavior analysts or budding behavior analysts. There's so much that just goes into passing that big exam that what about the history of ABA? What about the problematic procedures and interventions utilized on humans and animals that we need to make sure people know about and don't utilize. And why is that bad? Why is punishment bad? Why did B.F. Skinner say that he doesn't like use we shouldn't use punishment? Basically, he said that we can get what we want, we can get the behavior we want with reinforcement. And typically, if you're using punishment procedures, that means you're probably not creative enough to figure out how to provide reinforcing environments for the desired behavior.
Your behavior plan
Sorry.
has failed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a skill issue. And, you need to go get some more skills, which you're supposed to do as a BCBA. And you should seek those skills or other individuals who have been in those areas. I know there are a lot of severe cases, students, learners with high support needs that need support with, self-injurious behavior, gouging their eyes out, running in front of traffic, like super serious behavior we need to work on. But if your only way to work on that is to harm them, to stop them, then we have a problem.
It's not just the
So
ethics
sorry,
code
rant
either.
over.
No, that's a
Yeah.
very valid rant. And it's not just the ethics code, it's the actions that the BACB takes to not protect any sort of certificate holders. And I don't know that you've ever, like, kind of taken a look at who's under investigation and all that sort of stuff, but there are a few notable cases where people have been investigated for court cases and stuff like that. And basically, the BACB says, oh, it's cool since your court case was removed, even though, like, there's evidence of this happening and you settled out of court. You can still go practice and own your own clinic and do all these things. Not only that, but like the actions of them basically, as soon as DEI initiatives weren't required by people any longer, the BACB pulled back real fast. And we don't
Yeah.
forget that. We do not forget that shit. So,
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
oh yeah, absolutely. Pepperidge Farm will never forget.
No, no. And so those are just some things that, we've seen and experienced because all of these things matter. And I think that if we could have opportunities for everybody to hear each other out a little bit better, to understand what's going on a little bit more, I think it would be better for everybody so that they can understand and truly be aware of how these conditions have got to where they are and what conditions need to be met to have improvement. Because there are individuals who are incredibly helped by specific ABA services. There are individuals who have been incredibly harmed by ABA services. Both exist. And to not be able to acknowledge the other is to be ahistoric and is to not truly tell the story of individuals with autism, autistic individuals. You're not truly telling their story as it happened, which is harmful for future individuals with autism.
Yeah. Two truths can absolutely coexist. And they do. And that's the thing is, like, when you blindly defend a field that doesn't have your own back, which doesn't make sense to me. But you're defending
Mm-hmm.
this discipline that would throw you out to the wolves in a heartbeat because they do it in all of the structured organizations that
Yep.
that we
Yep.
have serving the most of the applicants and whatnot, then I do not understand that blind devotion and commitment and that lack of critical thinking and analyzing. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But that's why Niraba does what Niraba does, because I mean, we'll do the dirty work if we need to kind of like show you it exists. But it's so frustrating, and that's the thing. Like a lot of the times, these survivors or individuals who know survivors directly, they just want to be heard and they just want to be validated, and they are shocked when like we as Jaraba listen and we validate and we acknowledge, and like it's that simple, folks. Like I'm not trying to teach you how to be coercive and to like win your side of this. I'm saying like their opinions are valid. If they say, hey, I experience harm, I'm really sorry about that. I truly am sorry about that, because that is why I do this thing. If you want to share your story, we would be glad to share it for you and amplify your voice and try to show people why what they're defending is wrong. So it's huge just to listen.
Yeah, I agree. We need more people to listen and hear.
In the field, absolutely. um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, we don't teach students to do that, and I think that that's a
No.
huge disservice.
In fact, I would say we both go out of our way to teach the problematic ways ABA has been used and use those as examples to understand. Like we actively teach, like, hey, people are frustrated and here are reasons why. Let's and we don't just I don't just explicitly just like this is bad. You know what I mean? I
No.
walk students to understand what's going on in a fuller context than they've been provided typically. And that is extra work we have to do that's not written out in the syllabus or whatever, but it's important work we feel is necessary to build a good behavior scientist, because what we want to do, I think that I can speak for both of us, is build behavior scientists, not behavior analysts. We want you to understand the science, how it operates, so you can use those tools to solve any issue ethically, morally, right? And a lot of stuff, there's important stuff outside of the parameters of what ABA has right now. They just took out all precision teaching, standard acceleration chart stuff off the task list. So that means that a lot of people feel like they don't need to teach it at all. That's not good. That means that the measurement practices in our field is going to poo poo percent opportunity occurrence.
I
So, I
love I
mean,
love your vendetta against that. It's so great.
well, yeah, always.
Just
Unless you're using it for like demographic stuff, and percent isn't always bad. But when you're using it for performance, I don't see a use. Anyways, in rant, I'm good. I said everything for now until the next person comments.
that's probably a good part to say. What is it like? Comment, subscribe.
Oh, you did it this
I
time.
did it. I
Nice.
knew. I
Give
knew the
praise in the
natural transit.
comments.
It's a pattern recognition. Yay
There we go.
for
Like,
Autism
comment,
Month.
subscribe. Hype the video, share with a friend, comment on a comment, respond to a comment, and thank you for watching. See you next time.